Hi, I'm JohanaOliva, and this is my submission for the modeling task of a container that appears at the end of my own adventure. So, let's start with the process. First, the idea. Uh, First thing I concentrated in is this is my quest. This is have to do something with my own persona, so in a way it has to reflect some personal manifestation of my own persona. So, in the first things that I feel it always comes in my own art, in my own topics, it has to do with nature or it has to do with mythology. So, I read up ghost stories. It's something very deep into the culture of my country. People still believe that if you go in the middle of the night, if you're a bad person, you're definitely gonna encounter a ghost, and I love that. I love those stories. So I was thinking maybe do a container had to do with that, had to do with ghosts. Something maybe a little bit of juju or something a little bit scary, or going completely different way, going into something natural, a way of gardening. I feel it kicks me away from the computer. I love working in the computer, but I feel everybody who works with computers, it needs to have a hobby that just get you out of that room, and gardening is for me that hobby. So, um, taking in consideration my own limitations, the amount of time, uh, 2 days to do the concept, the idea, compiling reference, getting something that I'm not gonna be like, oh, this is bad. Something that is gonna be also satisfied for my own persona, and being able to model that, scope that, create the UV mapping if I had to do topology, if doing the textures, and having a decent render. So first step of my adventure is recopiling reference. I go through Pinterest and start recopiling reference. So the way I go around this is the YouTube details. So when I recopy a reference, it doesn't have to be that, oh, I really like the whole image. Most of the time it's like, oh, this little detail. And for me it's like a puzzle for my own idea. Uh, each detail is part of my own puzzle. For example, could be the way the metal is reflected on these gems, or the way the illumination has been done with the flower. Um, the way it's presented with the background as well, how many details. So as you can notice, I was starting to think of something crystal, something transparent. Why is that? Why is that? It's because one of the ideas is I cannot open it. It's a container I had find at the end of my quest, at the end of my quest, but I cannot. It's not the time to open it. So the first thing is I'm a very curious person. If I find a box and you tell me you have to wait to open it, I will probably snoop. I will probably be like, okay, I want to see what is inside. So I'm gonna be like, can I touch it? Now, if you end up with a box, but if you show me something crystal and you say, oh, you have to wait to open it, I say, I'm not gonna touch it because I'm gonna I'm gonna breathe. I'm gonna breathe near that crystal container and it's gonna break. So I'm gonna be as far away. I'm not gonna be nearby. So I feel it's a good representation of my own persona. If you don't want me to open it, it has to be dedicated. I'm not gonna touch it. So and I start thinking something with the ghost inside or something with the plant inside. Um, there's a lot of ideas, mini ideas that I liked here, but I didn't apply it in the end. For example, we have this like jar with that you you will put jam or something inside like that. I like that idea with the coat, with the fabric on the top, but I'm not that experienced with creating modeling of fabric. So I was okay. I don't have enough time to go through that. So yes, to a point, keep myself in my comfort zone. So going through all these ideas, going through color palettes of ghosts as well, into type of representation of pants, how I could go up around that, going into the rabbit hole, I find this beautiful, beautiful in abstract representations of jars, crystals, gas in general, and I just love it. And I said, okay, something like this. And this one in particular got caught my eye because it reminds me to something I had been doing in the garden. I had been putting the bulbs inside of the ground. These spring bulbs that I have to put them now, so that they are sleeping over winter, and then in spring when the ground starts getting warm, they pop up, and that just makes me so happy after winter being so dark. This is especially because I came from a very hot country. Winter for us is not like here is cold, here is dark. So it's beautiful in their own way, but it is different. So the spring for me is when I finally see colors again. So okay, I decided to go with the plants base, with the nature one. So once I sit with that idea, I start creating the story. And the story would be around a container with the shape of a bulb and a flower. For the flower, I decided to go for the crocus because the crocus is one of the first flowers I learned how it was named, and one of the first flowers in my first springs here in the UK. I was like, oh, that's beautiful, so many colors, and they are so small. So I just love it. Even in the snow, it just makes me so happy. So I decided to go with a flower like this, and I feel my story would be that it is not the time to open it because I have a small garden. I put bulbs, but then when I put the bulb in the ground, then I cannot use that spot anymore. I have to wait until the bulb comes back with the flower, and then the flower dies off. Once the flower dies off, I can extract the bulb again from the ground, dry it, and just save it for the next winter, and then I can use that ground. So I feel it marks in a way the next step of my gardening adventure. Of my what's the next step of the seasons? What I'm going to put next in this ground? I'm going to grow something that I'm gonna eat. I'm gonna grow something that I'm just gonna smell and enjoy, or just for nature, or it's just part of the adventure of the gardener. So for me, it's like I cannot open it, I cannot cut it. I had to enjoy the flower because what's the point of putting the bulb in the ground if I just gonna extract it like a month later? No, I enjoy the flower. I have the bumblebees enjoy the flower. For me, this is a symbolism of my own patience. Being a very impatient person, gardening needs so much patience. So once I got inspired with this, with my own brainstorming, I started doing some sketching. I often try to do a lot of a sketch, but obviously for the limitation of time, I was just like, okay, which ideas do I like? Yes, draw just the ones that I like the most. So as I say, I experimented a little more with plants. I think this sketch, this one are just something more related with ghosts, but on the rest it's just flowers from some type. As you can see, I went more for the crocus. And then I jump into Procreate just to create like a base, a symmetrical base of how it's gonna look like, how it's gonna be dispersed with the shapes, with the weights of the shape, what is more heavy, the top of the bottom, and how I'm going to distribute the roots. So I have the idea, I have the story, then I start going into 3D. So for my base, I just did a quick base in Nomad's code. So in Nomad's code, I'm not worried about the topology too much. I just worry about the shape. Getting the leaves right. The flower, the petals, I was playing a little bit with it. At the end, I didn't like the petals, so I changed them in Maya. But I feel the shape of the bulb and how it's gonna go up and everything, that was, okay, this is what I want. Once it was done in Nomad's code, I imported into Maya and I started doing some topology. So I could control more the amount of polygons I have in the shape. So this is the original one, and then I got the final one. So as you can see, it has more details. I did add more, and I wanted to create more like something more going on the bottom with the roots, because the bulbs, when they finally grow up, they really can, the groups can really grow so young, and I have seen some special decorations with some type of bulbs that they just put them in water, and the roots just take these beautiful shapes around the bases. So then I wanted to create the yolk with the roots as well, and then later on I will be adding like effects of lighting just to point out, to make it more obvious. For the general construction of the shape, I did use a lot of deformers, non-linear deformers, in repetition of some elements like the leaves, the petals, and then put like a twist deformer. With the roots, I will create spheres, add some twist deformer, extract the curves, and then add an effect of sweat mesh in these curves, so I could control the volume of the roots, and making sure they still were like not trespassing each other. They still have some order, so it makes sense for the shape. Once all this was done, I started going the UV mapping. So for the UV mapping, I just separated everything between three UV tiles to try to maintain it with a certain amount of resolution, because one of the things I got so inspired from my reference was this pumpkin, because of the type of texture it has, even for being gas. Obviously, I want that. I want definitely try to do that. So that's why I maintain really quite a big resolution in some of the parts. Also, since I of these shapes were practically the same one, it was just the position or the way it was twisted that it was different. So some of these tires are just stacks of each other. So here we have all the stacks of the petals that are outside. So I just color, and then everything's color, and then the same with the inside ones, and the same with some of these parts. Once to make the to maintain some uniform textures around the whole container, but also to be more optimized in time, since the imitation of time. Once the UV mapping is done, I just jump it into Substance Painter, and I start creating the blocking of colors. So just, okay, the petals are purple, so paint that, yuck it, and the same with each part of the flower. That's the way I work around this. I start blocking the colors, um, and then I add everything that has to do with colors, everything with the main base, especially with the designs I wanted to create from the pumpkin. Once that it's done, I also add the degradation, like combination of colors, maybe some effects with the levels, with the curves, maybe some filters, Gaussian blur, and then I start playing with other type of layers, with roughness, with metallic. Uh, I also experimented with the smart materials, a little bit of gas effect. Although the final effect of the gas I wanted to get, I couldn't get it, and that is something I will change if I have the time. Um, I still like the final result, but that is something I wish I could have experimented a little more. I feel it still ended being a little bit metallic, um, between metallic and gassy, but not as gassy as I wanted. I did experiment more with emission as well, just adding a little bit of sprinkles of emission inside of the petals, in the tip of the leaves, in the tips of the roots, um, just to try to still maintain some magic. Another thing I would have changed, I think, more details to add more magical way on this flower. But then I try to add that more in Maya. So once the texture was done in Substance, I moved back to Maya. I put the plugin of Substance Painter. I just connected the textures to a standard surface, and then I start creating my composition to render in Arnold. So in just to add a little more, adding some effects of lighting mesh to the yolk, just to make it even more obvious, and also some volume environmental effect with the light, so it gets a little more going on even with the dark background. And here's the final render. I hope you have enjoyed all of this. Really, thank you for your consideration, and I hope you have a fantastic day.